Been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab.
Hello and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab. My name is Adrian Hernandez. I am here so far today with Ezra Parter, Brennan Vogt, and I think we will be joined by Evan Liu. I am not entirely sure. I am hopeful. We'll put it that way. I am hopeful that we will see Evan Liu today on these beautiful airwaves. But thank you folks so very much for tuning in to the Mile High Hockey Lab, where we talk about the Colorado Avalanche a lot. And today we are going to add another installment of that. This is our 91st regular episode. We've had some crazy trade reaction episodes and some extension reaction episodes, but we've had 91 regular weekly installments. So folks, thank you for joining us and going along for the ride. Today's episode is going to be pretty interesting and pretty fun if you ask me. As usual, let me tell you what you can be looking forward to. We'll do a little bit of a recap and reaction to the games that have happened since our last episode. We'll talk a little bit about the carriage crisis coming to a conclusion finally, what the Four Nations break might mean for the Avalanche and their health meter, and we will preview Avs Canucks tonight as well as Flames and Oilers later on in the week before said Four Nations break. And of course, we will end our episode with bold predictions, NHL news, and a little bit of a suspension reaction room as well. So that's what you folks can look forward to today. Thank you again for tuning in to the Mile High Hockey Lab. If you enjoyed this programming, please like, subscribe, and share with your fellow Avalanche fans, and head on over to the website, milehighhockey.com. Okay, that's my spiel. We're done. Time to talk Avs hockey. Ezra, I'll start with you. Let's start with the good, baby. Great weekend for the Avalanche. Back-to-back shutout wins. Great performance from Mackenzie Blackwood. And otherwise, did this success in your mind have more to do with the competition, or are you leaning on a quality performance from the Avalanche?
I mean, that was such a quality performance from the Avs in both those games, but also in the games leading up to them that they managed to lose somehow. So I do think that the competition plays a pretty big factor, because the previous games when the Avs were playing great, the other teams managed to eke some goals out, and Colorado couldn't finish. And in these two games, the other teams, they couldn't put anything through, and Colorado was able to finish. So I think a lot of the same from Colorado that deserved to win, but because the competition was a little weaker, they actually got the win.
Sure. I like that. I like that approach. Like, you have to be good enough to realize an opportunity, but they did kind of take advantage of some opportunities. I would agree with you in terms of that, especially in that Flyers game. I mean, I was lucky enough to be at that one with my son for his first Avalanche game. It was such a great time.
Amazing.
But I had honestly no idea. I guess I didn't check Brendan's game notes because I thought that the Flyers had previously been shut out just the game before. I had no idea that game made it 9 straight scoreless periods for the Philadelphia Flyers. And once I was informed of that by an esteemed fan and colleague in the stands, I was like, oh boy, this is going to be really bad for the Philadelphia Flyers if this sort of thing continues. But it's time for the Avs to jump on this opportunity, because I was informed of that after that snoozer of a first period where the Avs didn't register a shot on goal until darn near 6 minutes left in the first period. Although I say, even in that moment, I said, the Avs aren't playing as bad as their shots on goal would indicate. Evan, you're a little late to the party, so I gave you Ezra's question, but that's all right. I'm just going to have you answer what was originally supposed to be his question. And I'm going to eat a little bit of crow here. I know we're only 5 games in, but I was pretty critical of the Rantanen for Natchez trade, and I kind of poked fun at Chris McFarland for using the Moneyball quote of making up for it in the aggregate. Like I said, it's only been 5 games, but I'm feeling like I'm wrong. They've done, at least on paper, exactly that in terms of making up for somebody who typically produces about 1.5 points a game over a stretch of games. What is your reaction to that? And is this something that you can see being sustained by both Natchez and Jack Drury?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Because I'll admit I'm still hesitant about the trade, still to this day. Like, it's sure the end product of it so far has been good, at least on the Avalanche side of things. You have Natchez, he has, I think, 5 points in 5 games, if I'm not mistaken, and Drury's been a good bottom 6 player, but I'm still hesitant. Like, it you have to think about it in the sense of a long-term sort of situation, right? You'd imagine that they'd sign Natchez long-term, right? Similar to where Rantanen would be. Probably not like 14 million, but probably double digits, if I had to guess.
If it goes well, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if it goes well, then I'll feel fine. But I'm not ready to say, like, yeah, this is a good deal. I'm not ready to say that yet.
Gotcha. I think that's a fair assessment. I think right now, like, recency bias is absolutely a thing, especially with trades. But like, the thing I thought was funny was Jay Fresh is already, and I'm telling you, Jay Fresh is supposed to be an Avs fan, but I realize now he's just a Jack Johnson fan. And he's already like, I guess 5 games is how you determine a trade. He's right. You don't just determine the success of a trade in 5 games. But I do think that there's something to be said about the fact that we're seeing the potential that Chris McFarland pointed to realized right off the rip. Sure, it's maybe not something that we can expect to continue for months and months, but we know that they're capable. And I think that in and of itself answers a question for me, at least in terms of this trade. Brendan, I'm curious about your thoughts on making up for it in the aggregate and kind of if that's sustainable. And I'm also curious about your analysis on the performance of one Mackenzie Blackwood, who's posting a 205 goals against average and a 925 save percentage in his time in Colorado. How sustainable is that?
Well, first off, you got to you haven't mentioned Shield had back-to-back shutouts.
True.
For the first time in his AHL career.
Fair.
So, got to mention that.
Yes.
And so
well, that's why you're here.
Yeah. So the Eagles are going to come home on the plus side on the way home.
Yeah.
But anyways, I like Blackwood. The fact that he has no teeth helps.
Just in general.
Yeah, like he's a true hockey player with no teeth, And then I don't know, he just seems a lot calmer in the crease than Georgiev. Like there's not as much panic.
Sure.
And because with Georgiev, even at the beginning of the year, where you think a player, like you would think a goalie would be calmer in the crease because, hey, it's the beginning of the year, I've got nothing to worry about and everything like that. You could see panic.
Yeah.
In just the way that he was trying to move from one side to the other and trying to handle things. And I even talked to Ryan Bach, who's the president of the Colorado Eagles and former goalie coach for the Colorado Eagles and used to be the goalie for the Colorado Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
And he even was saying, it's like I see panic in his movements. They're too jerky. They're not smooth. That it's just there's something going on mentally with him.
Well, and I would akin it to a young driver who's maybe overcorrecting and reacting a little bit too much to turning into the gutter and then overcorrecting and going into ongoing traffic. That's what it felt like for Georgiev at times. And I think that's what you're pointing towards with that herky jerkiness. So like it's been nice because I even said at the game, actually, this is the first live Avalanche game I've seen this season with what's supposed to be good goaltending in net. And it showed, we got the shutout. People were quiet about that word, but it felt good, especially considering the competition being the Philadelphia Flyers and their own woes in terms of scoring. But Ezra, I want to circle back to you. We've been talking about Mackenzie Blackwood, it feels like weekly, and we're kind of running out of analogies in terms of giving him compliments. But at the same time, I think it's a testament to how secure he's made that goalie room in that we continue to talk about him week after week. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we were talking about Georgiev every week too, but that was very different talk, right? So it's nice that the constant conversation about Blackwood is how much better things are going and how well he's doing. And even when he had a bit of I wouldn't say a dip in his play, but just a dip in his results with giving up more than 2 goals for a couple of games in a row. And nobody panicked because he doesn't panic. It's so different than, with Georgiev slapping Malinsky around and breaking sticks and everything like that. The vibe is clearly different and the results are clearly different. And yeah, I love talking about it.
Exactly. Well, like I like talking about it too for the same reason. It's like this is the goalie conversation I like to have. This is the sure. Does it get overplayed? Maybe. If you're going to overplay one tune, let it be. We've got a really good goalie in Colorado. Let that be the tune that gets hammered into the ground. Because honestly, those performances that we see from him where he keeps the Avalanche in games that otherwise they might not be in, if there was even just a slight dip in the talent between the pipes, those games are going to happen even in the playoffs. And maybe even just in microcosms within a game, he's going to give the Avalanche a chance to score and get themselves back into a game in a way that is truly dangerous, especially if the Avs are successful in upgrading their depth in the forward group. I think the sky's really the limit for me as an Avalanche fan. We're going to get into this later, but I've come up with a fun thing. It's called the health meter. You guys know, like Mortal Kombat and stuff, how you have your health meter at the top of the screen, and there's also your little power up meter. Well, I've done both for the Avalanche. We have a health meter and a power up meter, and I'll give you the details on how I figured that out and see if you all agree with me. But we'll get there later on.
I like this.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about it because I was like, the Avs feel healthy, but you can't really say that when your captain's hurt and when Nichushkin's hurt and yada yada. So I was like, how can you antiquate that? Well, I decided to give them all power rankings on their roster. And so there's a score of up to 330 in terms of your rank added together and yada yada yada. We'll get there. It's complicated. I will give you visual cues. But let's talk about the news that happened today. Kind of breaking news, exciting news for local Colorado Avalanche fans. Maybe not California over here and New York on the other end, but Brennan for sure. The Avalanche and Altitude, as well as Kroenke Sports, have agreed to terms with Comcast and Xfinity, and there will be Avalanche games and Nuggets games available on Xfinity, and I believe they added the Arizona and New Mexico markets as well to that. Brandon, I'm going to start with you. Your take on the carriage crisis coming to an end. What do you think?
Okay, I remember specifically the day it happened, only because I was working at Comcast when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in tech support for the business side,
Oh,
and it was October 19th, 2019.
Nice.
And the moment that Altitude flipped the switch is when the queue went insane.
Yeah. Sure.
At least in our market, because there were bars trying to flip. They were freaking out about the fact that they didn't have the channel. So, the agreement is that now you can add it on as part of an additional package, which provides every regional sports channel outside of the games.
Yeah.
And I believe the Jackie even said it provides the red zone too. It's been so long since I've done this, but you try and forget this traumatic brain injury. 10 years in tech support, man. It does something to you. But yeah, and so so you can buy this package. It gives you every single regional sports channel, and it literally will take you through the pregame, cut off the game, and then it will give you the post game, and then give you every other programming. And then now with Altitude, it'll give anyone in this market Altitude for what is it, $15.95 or something like that? More?
I think it's $10.99 or $10 for now, but it's supposed to go up to $15
in April,
which is oddly around when a potential finals appearance for two squads might be and playoff run for sure. So a little bit of a move there. I don't want to get too critical because I'm just excited of the fact that it's returning, and that mostly for like the generational fans, like the young kids who should just be able to like tell their dad to turn the game on or their mom to turn the game on and can't in certain instances. That's who I think this is really important for, because that's kind of how you grow the game, is getting generations to buy into the superstars that are here right now. Nikola Jokic and Nathan McKinnon. Those are the kind of guys who create future hockey and basketball players, and that's something that I think the community deserves and has deserved for, I guess, what would now be 6 years. It's actually a little bit gross when you put it like that. 6 years and 2 championships, multiple playoff runs, side-by-side MVP campaigns. Too much has happened in this blackout window. But fortunately, anything that happens from now on, hopefully we never have to write a carriage crisis article on milehighhockey.com ever again. And we can just have fun talking about the game. Evan, any touch that you want to put on the carriage stuff? I can't tell if you're frozen or if you're just sitting very still. Evan, are you still with us? He's frozen. I don't know what happened.
I've got something to add on. So
look, hold on, time out. Let's bring Evan on with Evan. Evan, I have you here. I have you here with yourself. Tell me.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Can you see your other you?
What the heck? What the heck? What?
For those of you who aren't watching, who are listening on the podcast, Evan is now in two places. Now. Okay, he's back. 2 Evans is better than none. I'll tell you that much. But I just wanted your quick thoughts on the Xfinity thing. I know you're no longer a local, but tell me how excited, or if you're excited about that news.
No, I'm obviously excited for everybody, right? I think, and
I was worried about this happening. Mm-hmm. I think you're cutting off. Sorry, buddy. I don't mean to interrupt you there. You might be having some technical woes.
Have
but
you tried resetting it?
You're loud and clear now, and you look handsome. It's just as soon as you start talking, every time.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
but let's quick. I'm happy for people, and it's great that people get to watch. Yippee!
Totally. Yay! Yahoo for school. in Yahoo for me. Ezra, so we got the Comcast stuff out of the way. Great. We all watching hockey, baby. One of the things we're going to watch pretty soon here is the Four Nations tournament. But honestly, in my opinion, fortunately for the Avs, there's only like 4 of them going. I believe that's correct. 5, maybe. I might be tripping.
4.
Yeah. And so that means the other 24 some skaters and goalies otherwise will be able to get some health. This is when I want to talk about our health meter. But tell me, the Val Nichushkin thing has apparently, quote unquote, experienced a setback in his first full-fledged practice after the injury way back when. And how he's on injured reserve retroactive to December 31st, New Year's Day. What does that forward group look like in the inevitable, hopefully inevitable health window and return for Val Nichushkin, in your opinion?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would guess that he doesn't come back till after Four Nations and uses that time to like really get fully healthy, because it sounds like if he was trying to play through something and it got tweaked in practice, it would definitely get tweaked in the game. So he's got to take his time. And once he comes back, I mean, you got to think he would find himself on that second line. Juuso Parsonen's been solid. I like Parsonen, but he's going to take Parsonen's spot for sure. Bump Parsonen down to probably the third, which I would guess moves Colton to center and bumps down Jack Drury, but maybe not. I mean, Jack Drury's been effective. I think the great thing about this is it gives the Avs a ton of roster flexibility, because there are a variety of players who can play both center and wing in the bottom 9 group. Really Natchez too, if you want to count the top line. But I think that Lehkonen, McKinnon, Natchez line is going to stick together. I like Druin with McKinnon, but I just feels like that's kind of locked in.
Yeah.
So the great thing is there's options. Are you going to bench Kiwi Ranta? Are you going to bench Parker Kelly? Are you going to give whoever needs a night off just to tune up? It's a lot more flexibility than they've had all year, and it's exciting.
That's honestly, you took the bait and you ran with it, baby, because that's what I was hoping you'd get into, which is that sure, on the surface, the trade hurt, but now I'm starting to realize when you insert guys like Nichushkin back into the lineup, there's real questions in terms of who's going to come out of it. And there's options, as you put. And I think that bodes really well for a team who's primed to potentially make a playoff run. And as weird as it sounds, based on how the year's gone, maybe surprise some teams in the playoffs, just in terms of how well-rounded and deep they are. Because I feel like some teams played the Avalanche twice and never again in the time frame where they weren't quite what they are today. So we'll see how that comes to fruition when the playoffs roll around. But Brendan, I want to get your take on the Nichushkin timeline of return sort of thing. You've had video of him getting in some work without skates, kind of in shorts, and
he is in skates.
Oh, just not in like breezers or
he's not in full gear.
Gotcha. Okay, so what is your takeaway from what you've seen? Not much.
I mean, honestly, he's far off from when I saw it last week. So, he's doing exactly what he did when he had that ankle surgery 2 years ago.
Yeah.
From post Stanley Cup days. So if everyone remembers that, the foot surgery and the ankle surgeries and all that fun stuff. Yes. That's what concerns me, is he's not getting back to the ice quickly.
Right.
He's in skates. So that's encouraging, I guess. But the fact that he's not even slapping on full gear it's like, that's something that you want to do to keep your muscle memory.
Totally. Well, this brings me quite well to my health meter that I teased earlier on. So I started with the roster. What a wonderful start. And I had to add Val Nichushkin and Gabe Landeskog because Hockey Reference didn't even have them listed. Then I went ahead and just did whether or not they were in or out. That gave me a percentage of availability, and that's about 88% of Colorado's players are available. That then gave me the queue to go up to my power up meter, which has the same roster. And this is where might be some debate, and I want to get your guys' votes on this to really queue up our health meter the right way. But I went ahead and did Ado's player power rankings to weight essentially these players. I realize now that I should have inverted it because I gave Nathan McKinnon a 1.
I was gonna say you put Middleton above Natchez.
So there's some work to be done here, but essentially what it ends up looking like is this. The Avs are almost healthy, but if you look at in terms of their power up rankings, they're pretty good. They've got a lot of their power, their specialties still available to them, which I think is important when you consider how the Avalanche should address the trade deadline and how we should think about this break as being a really big opportunity for the Avalanche. Because if you can get your power ranking, your power meter all the way up, basically, because at this point, Landeskog kind of doesn't figure into that. He hasn't in 2 years. He really doesn't, in my mind, move the needle until he comes back and shows you what he can do. So as far as that goes, once you get Nichushkin back, you pretty much have your power back as the Colorado Avalanche squad, which to me means you're in every game, every night, especially with good goaltending. So we're going to do a little bit of work in the background right now while you guys react to my health meter. What are your initial thoughts? And while I invert these power rankings so I can update the meters, just we'll start with you, Ezra. What do you think?
Well, what a confusing way to look at this. I know.
You know what?
I love that you're doing it. I'm excited to see the final result. I think my thoughts are mostly to make fun of you, but I'll drop it.
No, you know what? Go.
He's trying.
Yeah.
I know you love JFresh, and we compared JFresh's model to yours.
Yeah. I think JFresh probably has a better model than I do.
Exactly. But no, I love the attempt to visualize this, because it is really key to think about, like, the Avs have lost a lot of games to injury this year from a lot of different guys. But right now, the truth is that they're really only missing one piece that's expected to contribute at a high level, and that's Val. Right. Gabe is Gabe. He'll be back in some form, hopefully, as soon as possible, and we'll find out what kind of contribution you can expect from him at this point in his career. But other than Val, there's not much out there. There's Shillington, who should be back.
Yep.
I'm excited to see that, honestly, because the bottom of the Avs defensive group is a real an area of concern right now. As much as I've been Sam Malinsky's biggest fan, he's been maybe the biggest letdown for me lately. Mm-hmm. So even bigger, listen, this is maybe a take, but I'm more disappointed with Malinsky not developing than I am with Rantanen being traded away.
Whoa.
I'd rather have Mikko than Malinsky. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I mean. But it just in terms of the return for Rantanen, I'm like, yeah, okay, the team's still good. But with Malinsky struggling, what is this bottom of the defense group going to even do?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's key to see what Shillington does. Anyway, that was a big jump off from what you asked me, but
no, but I mean, I like that actually that you went in that direction, because kind of what I'm trying to get to the bottom of is what you started with, which is in terms of health, what really are the Avs getting back right now? Nichushkin is about it, and I think you're correct in keying on the defense in kind of that 6 and 7D. Obviously, every team talks about those guys every season. Those two positions in particular on the defense, the last pair, they often catch the most heat. I'm just gonna remove Evan because he's frozen in the funniest faces again. Look at that. Oh man, there he is. Okay, Evan. Every time you freeze, you're making a classic face. But yeah, I think that you're totally right in wondering what is on the table for Malinsky, and I think you're moreover Jackie's season-long prediction of him being dealt towards the deadline is looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, I was so shocked by the prediction, but then she was just as she often is, she was ahead of it. She saw Malinsky declining and thought he's never getting out of this, and I was sure he'd snap out of it pretty quickly, and that's the eternal optimist in me getting it wrong yet
Yeah.
again.
I'm with you though. I was also eternally optimistic, and I was like kind of in the camp where it was like, okay, maybe you can deal with Bo Byram because of Sam Olinsky, and that's really not feeling like it's the case. We talked about that with Megan a little bit in terms of draft pedigree and whatnot. But Evan, I got you coming through loud and clear, so I'm gonna get a quick answer from you while I can. Let's move on to our preview of what's to come. The Avs will get the Canucks tonight, who will be -1 Quinn Hughes. And they are going through some treachery in terms of just trading JT Miller to the Rangers because he and Elias Pettersson allegedly were in some sort of conflict. Do you think that the Avalanche have yet another opportunity to jump all over a kind of unsteady team?
They do, absolutely. I think it's certainly a possibility, but I also feel like the Avs are kind of in the same boat where they're trying to figure out their own identity a little bit. I think they're further along the road than Vancouver is, but it's something at least.
Yeah, I like that. I like that because I'm obviously Vancouver's a better team on paper than some of the teams the Avalanche have matched up with, but I put this in the chat. I don't think anybody responded to it in time for me to get, but it's like, I know that the Vancouver fans kind of have a hasty reputation. And I don't think I'm going out on a limb as to assume that if this doesn't work out for Elias Pettersson and the Vancouver Canucks on the heels of this JT Miller extravaganza, these fans could turn on that young man pretty quickly and make things pretty awkward, even more awkward for the Canucks. Ezra, I see you kind of bobbing your head along. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty accurate. Vancouver fans have been all over the Aquilani's, the owners of the Canucks, for the last, I mean, since Pavel Bure left. I mean, they're like for 20 years.
Right.
So they had the peak with the Sedins, and they were good for a while, but they never really like got over the hump. There was the one Stanley Cup loss where they rioted in the streets and burned cars in Vancouver. So they're not the most patient fan base, and they don't really have a reason to be patient. This trade was the culmination of kind of a debacle of a GM tenure for Jim Rutherford / Patrick Oveen. Yeah, if I was a Vancouver fan, I'd be real pissed right now. They traded.
But is any Canadian fan base a patient fan base?
Yeah, it's a good question. That's
Winnipeg.
A good question.
They waited a lot of years for that team.
They're starting to wear, their patience is starting to wear thin, and they've also got a really good team this year.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to their credit, they had a really good team last year, and then the Avalanche just jumped all over them.
I'm starting to see hints of like 2019, 2020 for the Avalanche in the Jets right now.
I could feel that. I could feel that. I also am like curious about like within the division. This is kind of going off on another tangent, but it's a good question. That's something we should talk about, I think, before we go on. Is it important to even gain position inside of the West right now? With the good teams are in the Central. A lot of the good teams are in the Central. You're going to play a great team in that first round anyway, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. All the good teams are in the Central. That's right. You heard it here first.
Yeah. I mean, Edmonton's good, but I'd take them over. I'd rather play Edmonton than Winnipeg.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Totally.
And then also I want to piggyback off of Ezra's little comments about Malinsky. Everybody's got to keep in mind that he lost a year of development.
Sure.
Because Cornell was one of the few schools that completely shut their season down during the pandemic.
Gotcha.
So I believe it was the 2021 season was completely lost to every player on Cornell. And it was either 2020 or 2021. I can't remember. I know that he lost a complete season.
Gotcha.
2021, because 2020 was halfway over when the pandemic started.
Yeah. And so he, I know he still had a year of eligibility and everything like that, but that is another year he could have been playing in college. And instead of playing, he was sitting at home trying to stay active in the gym. It's just something I even brought up with him. I was like, how tough was it to sit at home and watch other teams play? And he said it was probably one of the hardest things that he's ever had to do in his life.
Right.
And then to come in and play the professional level. Yeah, he was good at the AHL level, and now he's a full-time NHLer, and he's getting limited minutes. You can only develop so much at the bottom on the bottom pairing.
Right.
You get moved up to the second pairing or the first pair, which we know he won't.
Right. Well, but that's kind of an argument for moving on from him in a way, because you're what you're saying is, he has more developing to do. We should be patient with him, but you're also saying he can't do that development in the role that's needed here. So it kind of makes me think of like a Tyson Jost kind of situation where it's like, yeah, he can stay in the NHL and do this, and on this team be a guy who plays the role that he's being asked to play, but he's not going to develop into anything better than that if not given the opportunity. And once he's already 26, so he needs that opportunity fast.
Or risk sending him down, putting him on waivers and sending him down, but someone like Utah is going to smash him up. So they wouldn't even hesitate on that one.
All right, so I updated my health meters with the corrected data. I inverted the data to properly weigh our power rankings because the most important player should add the most units to this power up meter, which I was thinking is more important than the overall health percentage. Just as
Middleton.
Yeah, like for instance, Shillington coming back is not going to move that power up needle at all, essentially. Nichushkin, however, will move both. And I think that is what I want to use this little tool for, is to know who moves the needle in both places. And that's really where we have to be concerned in terms of injury problems or not. So that's the health meter. We're going to revisit that before the playoffs start. But for now, I'll get that confusing thing off your screen. And Ezra, you know what? I want to explicitly give you permission to give me shit 100% of the time that you want to. All right? Because you're a funny person, and I have 3 older brothers, and I'm ready to go, bro.
So that's where the cockiness comes from. You're always fighting back with the older brother.
That's right. That's
okay.
right.
Now I see it.
And I'm also like vertically challenged, so there's always that.
I wasn't going to mention that.
Well, you knew that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's always that part in it. We always got to fight a little more for our meat at the table. But you see that in some guys like Connor Garland too in hockey. But Ezra, I want to see your take on the Canucks tonight. What are you looking forward to? And also touch on the Avs and Flames game that's going to come up later this week.
Yeah, well, I mean, both games I'm looking forward to seeing some new guys in new places. I think that's always fun. I'm excited for the Avs to take it to another team that should be a little limited. I think what really encouraged me in the last week or so of Avs hockey has been the incredible defensive structure. And obviously Mackenzie Blackwood is a big part of those shutouts, but truly, like, I think chances against were like under 10 in both games. I have to look. I don't remember the stats off the top of my head, but high danger chances definitely were extremely low. Mm-hmm. And when the Avs play like that, God, they are going to be impossible to beat on a consistent basis. So to see that continue would be wonderful. To see the power play continue having a little bit of juice would be great. And yeah, I'm interested to see what Marcus Pettersson does.
There's like 3 Petterssons that play for the Canucks.
Very funny.
Yeah, you could literally just say
one
Pettersson
just got sent down to Abbotsford.
Oh, really?
One
mini.
Yeah, so they're down to 2.
Down to 2.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, his is they throw Nils in there so that it's the different Elias Pettersson. I wonder, or is that just what he's gone by his whole life? Because isn't it Elias Nils Pettersson?
I don't know. Yeah, is that it?
It is. I think so. Evan, I want to get your take on kind of what's to come for the Avalanche this week. Is it important to you that they win out before the break? Bednar's talked about treating these last 4 games before the break as playoff games. Are you down with that?
Oh, 100%. I really like that he said that, because I feel like that gives us sort of tenacity, and a sort of feel about the games. Now, granted, of course, I haven't caught many of the games. This will be the first game I can watch in a while, and it starts at 10 o'clock Eastern. Yippee. But it's I'm looking forward to seeing, what they can provide, right? Because obviously Vancouver is Vancouver, but they don't have Quinn Hughes. Not
Hmm.
bad, right? You have Calgary, who's kind of been the surprise of the West. And of course, they just traded Kuzmenko for Farabee and Frost. Like, those are two pretty solid young guys that I feel like could really help out Calgary. And if they wanted to really make a push for it, there you go, right? And then, of course, Edmonton to end it all out with, the usual suspects there. So, I mean, it's really been a big stretch for the Avalanche going into this break, and you need all the points that you can get.
Hmm.
So, why not make it like a playoff game? Why not make every game going forward like a playoff game? So just got to do what you got to do, man. Get the points. You need them.
Totally. And I mentioned earlier that I'm not worried about where the Avs land inside of the division, inside of the playoffs, but I do think that someone in the Central's at a minimum going to get that wild card one, which pretty much means you're going against the Oilers, right? Unless VGK makes a move, steals the top spot. Either way, Oilers or Vegas, those matchups in the playoffs, they got some juice to them, man. As a first round playoff series, I'm cool with it. If you should so happen to sneak into third and second place inside of the division, you're playing the Stars, or potentially the Wild, probably the Stars, right? So another one with a lot of juice. So pretty much looking like Dallas, Edmonton, or VGK right now, and that's pretty awesome, if you ask me, as just a hockey fan. But the thing that's important to me is if the Avs get these next 3 games, that'll put them at 70 points going into the break, which 70 points in 57 games, that's a pretty good mark to be at, heading into basically what will be like the last 20 games of the season. You can really start to decide whether or not you're going to press to make a move inside of the division, or if you're going to really kind of dial things back and make sure that you're healthy and all your systems are really in place. What you're getting from your role players, yada yada yada. So it's really starting to get to be that really, really fun time to be an Avalanche fan, fun time to be a hockey fan as we get closer and closer to the playoffs. And I like what Anthony says here. Bedsy using this as a benchmark to see if they really have a shot to move all in, or if the season is going to be a wash. See if the players can flip the switch. I feel like the players have flipped the switch since Mackenzie Blackwood came over here. We had a little bit of a shakeup with the Miko trade, and that had its effect. But I'm honestly starting to see we were dying for the power play to have some new vibe, new life. And that trade at a minimum has forced that to be a reality. And I think that it's working. And that's a very, very good thing. I do want to move on to our very last segment. But before we do bold predictions, folks, please head on over to Apple, Spotify, pretty much your preferred podcast platform, and go add our full catalog over there. As I mentioned to start the show, this is our 91st episode of the Mile High Hockey Lab. That's pretty awesome. We're zeroing in on 100 pretty quick here. And like I said, I'll send you guys all the mini silver stick like they do in the NHL. It might smell like spray paint, but put it in a case and it'll be all right. But I want to talk, before we do our bold predictions, I want to talk about something that's been on the NHL radar today, which is the 10-game suspension that Ryan Hartman sustained for his actions on a face-off against, I believe it was Tim Stützle, who basically went face first into the ice as a result of a tie-up. And it looked like Hartman may have not, let's put it this way, definitely didn't do his best to prevent an injury to his counterpart. Yeah, Evan does it well there. Just quick reaction from anybody who wants to give a take on that.
Wow.
Brandon, go ahead.
So I say good.
Yeah.
I'm glad he got suspended. He's got 7 fines and 4 suspensions in his career before this. He's averaging 60 games between disciplinary action. We hate Tom Wilson.
Yeah.
This guy is up there with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's losing darn near $500,000 I think it was like 487 million or 487,000 and change
Wow.
from not playing these 10 games. I haven't heard whether he's actually going to
Appeal.
appeal it, but I don't think he'd win it.
Yeah, I was
because
gonna track record doesn't
well, yeah,
do,
you have a track record, and watching the video, it's just like, dude, I've taken plenty of face-offs, and that was purposeful. You were out to injure in this case.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, that's what it looked like. Go ahead, Ezra.
Well, I mean, you watch the video that the NHL put out, and they say like Hartman tried to say that he was unable to stop his momentum from forcing him to put pressure on Stützle's head or whatever, and they're like, we disagree with that assessment. I'm like, okay, so Hartman went in there, tried to lie his way out of it, and the NHL's like, yeah, no, 10 games. I love that. It's good to see Dops doling out bigger suspensions. I don't often agree with their decisions, but it's nice when they crack down on people, especially guys who try to lie to them. I mean, like, come on. There's no way he wins an appeal after that.
Yeah, and to me, man, like I'm a big fan of outside of this sport. Like I like the fight game. I like MMA. That's kind of something else I enjoy getting involved in. But like a part of that world and a part of that I think is in alignment with the hockey world is a mutual respect among competitors. And yes, the game in and of itself requires a level of physicality and kind of disregard for your body. But that disregard is supposed to be you're supposed to be safeguarded by your fellow competitors when you are throwing caution to the wind for competitiveness. And I think this is a clear-cut example of there being no respect for the health of your counterpart. I think honestly Hartman's lucky in the fact that Stützle wasn't more seriously injured. Because if that's like an egregious injury on top of what was an egregious play, this is a different conversation. And we in Colorado town know all about the larger conversation that can come as a result of a dirty play with the Moore situation that happened here. So it's like a bigger thing than I think people realize. And so I'm with you, Brandon and Ezra. I'm glad that Megan used this term. They threw the book at him in this instance. Evan, are you in agreement with the rest of us?
Yeah, I mean, I simply just said, wow. I'm definitely didn't think it'd be that many, but hey, I'll take it. So good for them standing up. What am I thinking of? Holding the integrity of the game to a strong point. Obviously it's Heart the Wild, of course, who are already, pretty
salty.
What's the word? Short-handed. There you go. Well,
salty
too, but short-handed
Gotcha.
already. And I don't think the Avs play Minnesota in the next 10 games, so I don't think it'll affect them. But regardless,
that's a good question.
And also, I don't know if Stützle was injured in the play either, because I've seen guys go, trip, lose toe pick, in like beer league, and eat it like Stützle did, and have their helmet on and come out bloody. And he didn't, at that point when he made contact with the ice, did not have a helmet on. Oof. And that's what the biggest concern as a human is for me, is that it's like, dude, are you okay? Like, is your brain still in your head?
Yeah, that's one of those. Like, I'm like, you don't have a concussion. That's incredible. I might not believe you, but
okay, yeah. So Anthony's saying he was bloodied from it, which I am not at the least bit surprised, because I did not see like the live replay or anything.
No, he was, yeah.
Because when I'm not covering Avs or Eagles, honestly, I turn the sports off because I got to take a break.
Yeah. Well, Evan, to your question, the Avs do play the Wild in Colorado February 28th, which will be because of the pause, right? It feels like it wouldn't, but because of the pause, that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, and then oddly enough, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games after that. So on Hartman's second game back, the Avs will be in Minnesota. So there's actually a couple of games. Hopefully the Avs. Hey, here we go. I was wondering when I would get to my, and that's why I titled the episode. That's why I titled the episode "While the Gettin is Good," because the Avalanche need to beat teams who are in compromised positions, especially in this small pseudo playoff window that Bednar has proposed. If you can take advantage, so to speak, of some struggles, otherwise, the Avalanche will do well and be sitting in a good position as the break ends and we're coming back to NHL hockey. I think optimism will be on the table. So let's cap it there and get into our bold predictions before I get too carried away. But folks, there's 400 of you watching us live. Thank you so very much. We appreciate your eyes and ears. Please, if you enjoy this content, head on over to the website, milehighhockey.com. We have all of our written material, some recaps, some previews, some opinion pieces. Brandon does his Eagles takeaways over there. That's been an awesome addition to our written programming on milehighhockey.com. So be sure to check that out and give us all a follow on your preferred social media platforms. As you can see, we got all of that written above us. But for those of you listening, that's at all caps MHH_lab and at Mile High Hockey on X. Okay, let's rehash last week's bold predictions. Ezra, I don't know. Did you watch the Flyers game?
I like the next day, but not live, which was my.
So then you're correct. Your prediction is that the next time the Avs lose, you'll be watching, and they have not lost, and you have not watched.
And I can't watch tonight, so let's keep it going.
Yeah, let's ride, baby. Yeah, I love it. Well, careful, because I might not let you watch ever again. If
I was gonna say you watch
I'll keep it going if they
that's great. So there's a ding, man. Starting the day off with a ding, and you know what? We're gonna continue with another one because Jackie let her Sammy goal bold prediction from the week before ride into last week. We said that could be Malinsky or Girard, and it was one Sam Girard breaking down from an odd combination of players. Middlestat was the one who fed him as he was in the high slot with a nice top shelf wrister. I love a Sammy G goal, baby. And
that was
Jackie,
a lovely goal. Yeah,
Jackie,
nice.
There's your ding. Sorry you're not here to get your flowers. Just know that we love you, and there's your ding. You deserve it.
And then he almost barely had an empty netter.
Yeah,
by 0.01.
Yeah, which is, I mean, if I'm him, I'm mad. Just put that thing. Come on, what are we doing?
Yeah, they were already winning. So
yeah, exactly. Well, I had that the top unit would have 9 points in one game. That was pretty bold, but they look good. I'm excited about the way they look. I was just thinking we were going to get one of those marquee performances. Maybe we'll get that tonight. I'm hopeful. Evan, you said that Marty Necas would have 3 goals in his next 2 home games. That did not happen, but he does have 5 points in 5 games with the Colorado Avalanche, and that, my friend, is good news. One could assume that it'll only get better as he gets more familiar with his teammates. Brandon, I'm kind of going to give you a verbal ding. I won't ring the bell, but like you were basically like, EJ's going to play and he's going to score a goal. He didn't score a goal, but he did played, and it had been a while. It's been a while. I think the trade maybe made way for him probably to be inserted back into the lineup because the Flyers were without the guys that they acquired. But it worked out for you in that sense that you kind of were privy. Well, if he's going to come back, it might be the Avs. Some of the dominoes that fell otherwise led to it, but that's okay. And I believe that's all we had last week. So that means I'm going to run the music, roll that tape, and you all can tell me this week's version of your bold predictions.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I call that bold talk.
All right. So if to Anthony and Peterman and Vaguely Sober, if you guys have bold predictions, ring them out right now. I'll be sure to bring them up on the screen. But let's start with you, Mr. Evan Liu, Mr. Managing Editor. What you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big stretch of games. If Bednar is really having them have a playoff mentality, I'd hope the same of all those players. So I'm going to say McKinnon gets 6 points in the next 3 games.
Love it. 2 points, 6 points in 3 games. All right. I love it. I love it. I'm really excited about what I'm seeing from McKinnon as Natchez has come into the fold, because I feel like he's almost like, all right, I guess I gotta drive this ship. And sometimes I think he was willing to just kind of be a part of the team in areas where I think he just has to take over as many games as possible. Go full Jokic, and I think he is going full Jokic more often these days with Natchez in the picture. So I dig it. 6 points in 3 games for Nathan McKinnon. Ezra, what do you got for me?
I think Shillington plays every game,
Since including tonight, yeah, obviously
including tonight. Yeah,
plays all games before
that's
the
the
break.
one I'm most unsure
pretty-
about, but I'm gonna go with it.
I was gonna say tonight might be the weird one, but that's pretty bold if you ask me, because it's felt like Malinsky and DeHaan are kind of the defaults down there. But it'd be nice if Shillington can be healthy and come up and maybe
Feels like they
stimulate.
trust Middleton over DeHaan pretty
Yeah,
much.
it does.
So I'm
It does.
guessing we
Honestly,
see Middleton Shillington at some point.
man, I know. I just
It could be an age factor too.
I know about the underlying statistics, but man, I'm a sucker for the Middleton kind of play, man.
Well,
I'm cool with it.
and he's posted some good statistical games lately too. Like I feel like when it first started happening, I was in shock and I was disappointed. And then the more he played, the more he got comfortable, the more it seemed like, okay, he can hang in a pinch. He's not going to he can't be the guy in the playoffs, right? But right now, it's okay.
Well, Peter, man, I dig this. His bold prediction is that Middleton will get his first goal. I love it. I love it. Which we all thought for a moment he had, but that was Jack Drury deflecting his point shot in. So he's got points now, which is cool for Keaton Middleton. And I got one from Anthony Pacino. Says Kale gets his hat trick, was stolen during the New York game, totally, and Val will be out until the deadline. I don't like that second one, but I like that first one. So I'm going to put you down for that, Anthony. Thank you very much for tuning in. Brennan, what's your bold prediction this week?
Logan O'Connor goal.
I like it.
Yeah, he has not scored since January 16th against Edmonton.
Oh, that's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'd take that. Yeah, I'd take that.
I really like that one. I feel like I've seen Logan O'Connor make that step that I was longing for early on, because it just looked like he was still healing and kind of getting the feel for his hip after that surgery in the offseason. And I think you're starting to see that speed come back to the surface for him, which is really exciting, because when Logan is going, I mean, last year he was a shorthanded goal phenom. And I think we're going to start seeing more of that. So I'm going to piggyback your bold prediction, Brennan, and I'm going to say that the Avs get a shorthanded goal. And I'll let your Logan O'Connor be the one who gets it.
And what's funny is my kid wears number 25 on his helmet.
Nice.
Because that's how fast he wants to go. Just like that guy. And he pointed at Logan during practice one time.
Not Nate, not Kale.
Logan not Nate, not Kale. Logan O'Connor. And it's like, yes.
Yeah. And you're like, the work ethic too, son. Do
that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I couldn't. Beyond the usual players, LOC's got to be one of my top all-time favorite players.
Same. He's got that grit per 60 that we talk about, vaguely sober. So he might be the pioneer. Him and Arturi Lekkinen might be the leaders in grit per 60 for the Avalanche. I will say too, we haven't really touched on this, and just for a quick second before we sign off, it's nice to see Miles Wood, another grit per 60 guy. And we talked a lot about him being trade bait and his back and yada, yada, yada. I think there's a place for him if he can bring that grit per 60. You got to have it, especially in the playoffs. And I think he'll stick around. If he is trade bait, well, I guess add that to the list that no one is not apparently right now.
Well, I think Wood as a trade piece was a conversation when everybody was trying to figure out how the Avs were going to make Rantanen's money work mathematically. And now that that's not a question,
And we didn't know what his back
Yeah.
back was the problem.
right? Totally. But now that the money's not a question, I think he's a guy who, 2.5 million for a bottom six player feels like a lot right now. But once the cap jumps to 113 million
Exactly.
in 3 years, it feels like nothing.
That term will be pretty genius, actually, if he actually does get healthy and extend his career that far. I mean, at 2.5 million, like you mentioned, the cap is supposed to be over 100 million potentially in, I believe it was 27, 28. So like, I kind of laughed when I saw that. I was like, wonderful, can't pay 3 players X amount, but the cap will be basically increasing by the amount of an elite superstar between now and 3 years time. So
You
we'll
also
see.
gotta pay Kale.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
gotta pick
Kale's
him.
gonna get a
Kale's gonna get bank.
yeah.
Yeah, Kale is gonna get bank. I'm not gonna add your comment to the screen, Peter Man. Just know that I see it, and I hope you're right.
You're asking for trouble putting that on screen.
Exactly.
No. You can't say that. Not even abbreviated, dude. Sorry.
Well, folks, thank you so very
Peter
much
Man's
for
been
tuning
banned.
in. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Peterman clearly doesn't have a hothead goalie in his life.
Yeah, Peter Man says LOL. How do I ban chats?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just
mute
kidding.
word. Mute word.
Peter, thank you so much for joining us. You're a usual. We appreciate you. You guys make the show way more fun when we get to interact with you. So we really, really enjoy your feedback and commentary. Folks, this has been the Mile High Hockey Lab. Thank you so much for tuning in before tonight's game against the Vancouver Canucks. I hope that the Avalanche can do their thing tonight, and I'm sure you do too. And guess what? If you have Comcast, you get to watch the game on your
If you
television.
pay for it.
If you pay for the NES package, as they say. But I'm assuming a lot of you already do, and I'm hoping you do. Because if not, you're going to be like, what is this Altitude Plus subscription good for? But nonetheless, we love you, Avs fans. Until next time, this has been the Mile High Hockey Lab. On behalf of Ezra Parter, Evan Liu, Brennan Vogt, my name is Adrian Hernandez. Go Avs.
Thank you for tuning into the Mile High Hockey Lab.